On the economic front. Scott Bessent there at Treasury, Howard Lutnick at Commerce, Kelly Loeffler at SBA here. How is the business community that you know so well, how is it responding to some of those picks? Is it optimistic, pessimistic, ambivalent? How do they feel?
Yeah, look, I think the reality is the jury is still out at the end of the day. We'll be curious to see what folks do. I think, the Kelly Loeffler nomination is very interesting. It's assumed probably that most of those three will get confirmed. She's been an entrepreneur, which is great, has a strong interest in crypto. The conversation will really be, what does it look like? What does it mean for policy? We know many of the provisions of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which is an act that was passed under President Trump previously, are set to expire. And so Congress is going to have a conversation on that. And the conversation is, are they going to return to sort of giving tax breaks to large corporations and wealthy people and hope that trickles down to families? Are they really going to focus on working families and small business owners? And that will be an important conversation, I think, for the Trump administration and Congress to have. But I think, in terms of where they are as a cabinet, these are interesting picks. They tend to all be, more wealthy people who have careers in business and are executive versus sort of working class folks. But there's important policy to happen. It will be interesting to see what the conversation is over the next few months as they really approach tax policy, which is really how we set economic vibrancy in our country.
So, Rhett, let's talk about the regulatory framework in the country. And we've heard some calls for deregulation from those in Trump's orbit here. This got a lot of attention the other day. Our friend Reese Gorman at Notice with the screen grab here. Trump said this on Truth Social. Any person or company investing $1 billion or more in the United States of America will receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including but in no way limited to all environmental approvals. He says, get ready to rock. I would imagine the business community is looking upon that statement with glee, or not?
Yeah, look, regulations are something that's very interesting. Overall regulations are the things that keep our population safe. They make sure that our drinking water is safe and that, things that are built in our country are done in a manner that keeps everyone safe. So they are important. And you talk to a lot of business leaders and they understand the roles of rules and regulations. But we also need to make sure that those aren't getting in the way of innovation. And I think, one of the areas where there might actually be some bipartisan opportunity is really around permitting reform, right? America is the global leader in innovation and investment. And to do that, we need to make sure that we have the rules that still allow America to move quickly, to be on the frontier. There's been, for a while, a lot of bipartisan interest in permitting reform. And I think this is one of the areas where we'll see Democrats and maybe the Trump administration be able to come together. I'm not sure that, everything will be agreeable, but if there are portions of this that can move forward that will allow investment to happen in our country, that is probably not a bad thing.
Okay, Rhett, let's talk about tariffs and tariff policy. So this really long interview there in Time magazine with President-elect Trump. He was Time's Person of the Year. That just came out. That's why he was at the stock exchange today. He says this when referring to illegal immigration and some of his plans for mass deportations. He says, I want them out, them meaning illegal immigrants, and the countries have got to take them back, he says, and if they don't take them back, we won't do business with those countries, and we will tariff those countries very substantially. He says when they send products in, they will have substantial tariffs. It's going to make it very hard for them to do business with us. So does the business community see Trump using tariffs as this type of coercive weapon to get other countries to do other things? Or do they see it as, yes, he's going to implement tariffs no matter what, on a broad range of goods, on a broad range of countries, allies nonetheless?
Yeah, look, I think there's broad consensus both in the business community as well as in a lot of Republican communities that tariffs are not a good thing. And I think this has been one of the areas where we've seen traditional challenges between Trump and the Republican Party, because a lot of times what we see with tariffs is if we place tariffs on a country, they end up placing tariffs back on us. And really what they end up doing is it ends up being a tax, quite frankly, on working families, consumers, small businesses, because that money gets passed down. I think there is broad consensus from Republicans to Democrats and everyone in between that we need to fix our broken immigration system. I was actually, it was really nice to see that, Chairman Langford, who pioneered the last immigration bill, which was one of the most conservative bills we've seen on immigration and had bipartisan support. He's going to reintroduce that. So I think that will be a good starting place. I think we should focus on common sense solutions to immigration so that we can not really be talking about tariffs, because I think even the sort of rhetoric that we see on tariffs sometimes really causes a lot of anxiety in the business community. And I think that's not a place where we want to be, because we want to be continuing to focus on growing our economy.
Yeah, I mean, some of our allies are responding to some of this. So there is the Ontario Premier. His name's Doug Ford. Canada's most populous province, Ontario, according to the AP, may bar American-made alcohol in addition to restricting electricity exports to Michigan, New York State, and Minnesota if Trump imposes sweeping tariffs on all Canadian products here. So Mexico and Canada, I mean, they're ready to respond to this, are they not, Rhett? And if they do respond in kind, that's how these tariff wars go, right?
Yeah, look, I think a few things. This is one of the few areas where I think Biden and President Trump are actually like pretty much in alignment. They've both been focused on, investing sort of in America and making sure that American workers thrive, and sort of less focused on sort of, globalism. And we call it friendshoring or nearshoring, or try to bring jobs more home. And that makes North America as a bloc more important. So that means our relationship with Mexico and Canada is going to become more important than ever. And the three of us really need to be on the same page. And quite frankly, it's really important that we work together, because all three of our country have important materials and supplies that we need. And so that working relationship between our three countries, in 2026, we expect to review USMCA, or, what folks kind of know as NAFTA. And so that's going to be an important part of the conversation. We don't want to end up in a tariff war. We don't want to end up in this place. And so it's really important that we kind of watch the rhetoric, that we don't threaten tariffs, but we find a really important way to make sure that we're balancing all of these factors. We're investing in American innovation, and we're working with Mexico and Canada in ways that we can to really advance innovation and to really grow our shared North American economy.
All right, Rhett Buttle, we'll leave it at that. Rhett, always a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
So great to see you, Andrew. Have a great night.
All right, in the meantime here, we are at the top of the hour. It's 8 o'clock here, Mountain Time, 10 o'clock there on the East Coast. So this was the news today. If you don't know by now, I want to put this up. That President-elect Donald Trump is Time Magazine's Person of the Year. That is why he was at the New York Stock Exchange today with officials there at Time, celebrating this, touting this. It's one of his many Time Magazine covers there, and they tout his incredible comeback on the campaign trail after his loss to Joe Biden in 2020, and after surviving 2 assassination attempts just this summer and beating Kamala Harris in the election here. So he took the opportunity to speak at length outside of the stock exchange today for this occasion. Let's listen.
For the second time, I think I like it better this time, actually, because but we did a good job. We had a great first term, despite a lot of turmoil caused unnecessarily. But the media's tamed down a little bit. They're liking us much better now, I think. If they don't, we'll have to just take them on again, and we don't want to do that. But I do want to thank Time Magazine. I've been on the cover many times. I don't know who has the record, but I can only probably talk well about 25% of the covers. 25% are great. The others I just sort of hide. But it's been an honor, and every time it's an honor, I will tell you. And thank you very much for doing it. And thank the whole group at Time. Really very professional people. Thank you very much. And to Jeff and all of the people from the New York Stock Exchange, he knows how much I like it, because many years ago I bought a building across the street. I wasn't going to buy it. Then I said, it's right next to the New York Stock Exchange. I'm going to buy it. We've had great success. 40 Wall Street, we've had tremendous success with it. But you've really had success with the New York Stock Exchange. It's an incredible group of people. And Jeff, you have done an incredible job, you and your group. And what a beautiful speech you made. Thank you very much. I was some introduction of all of us. But we've gone up since the election. I was just told by Scott, everybody said, you have to pick Scott Scott Bessent, he has to be the one chosen for Treasury. Where is Scott? Let's see, he's around here someplace. He's around here. He told me we picked up $3 trillion since the election day. And I said, well, that's good, but what about before the election day? He said, we picked up some money there because they thought you were going to win. I said, I like this guy. He's going to be my Treasury Secretary. But it's true. I think we're going to have a tremendous run. We have to straighten out some problems, some big problems in the world. When we left, we didn't have any of these problems. We didn't have Russia with Ukraine. We didn't have Israel October 7th. We didn't have the Afghanistan disaster. We didn't have inflation. We had no inflation. And we had a very strong economy. And we're going to do that again, but I think we're going to even up it because now we have experience that we didn't have. Now I know everybody. You know, when I first came in, we came down, Melania and I, a great first lady, who's very popular, by the way. She rang in. She rang in the bell. She rang in the bell. But we came down and we're driving down Pennsylvania Avenue, and it was so beautiful. I said, you know, I've never done this before. I didn't know anybody. I got to the Oval Office, and I'm picking all these big positions, and I didn't really know the people in Washington, but boy, did I get to learn fast. And now we do, and I think we have an incredible staff behind me and others that aren't here. And we're going to do a fantastic job. We're going to create the incentive theory again. In fact, I just announced yesterday, I didn't announce it for this reason, but anybody investing $1 billion or more gets a very expedited approval process because, you know, the approvals, when people come into the country, it takes them, in many cases, 14, 15, 16 years to get the approval. We have Lee is around here someplace. He's in charge of the environment, and that's Lee Zeldin, who ran an incredible race for governor in New York, was a very, very successful guy before that. He was a great congressman, and he's a fantastic lawyer. He's in charge of environmental, and we'll try and push him as much as possible to get those permits very quickly. Like a nuclear power plant, I would say a week would be enough time. What do you think? Is that okay? We're going to get fast approvals, and it's great that we have Lee and all of the people behind. They're all stars in their own way. But it is an honor, and this is a double because usually they don't coordinate the Man of the Year or the Person of the Year with the ringing of the bell. And brilliantly, you picked them both at the same time, and you were all friends, and you said, let's do it. And it takes one trip. It doesn't take two trips. That's okay. We like to save. We like to be able to do it properly. But this is a special group. So many friends in the audience, too. John, great job you've done at ABC. I'm really proud of you, and you've been so nice to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually acknowledge you at all. But you have been, it's a terrific job you've done. But again, I want to thank you. We're going down to ring the bell now, and I could just say that the economy, I believe, is going to be very strong. We do have to solve some problems. We have wars going on that we didn't have. We have a lot of things happening that we didn't have that would have never happened. They would have never happened, but now they have happened. And I want to get them solved. We have to get them solved because ultimately the power of weaponry today is the biggest threat we have, in my opinion. It's not some of the other things that you read about. It's the power of weaponry. The weapons are so powerful, so devastating. And I rebuilt our military. I got to know every one of them, including nuclear weapons. I hated to do it. Actually, I hated to do it. But we did some nuclear weapons that are so devastating. It almost makes you very sad as you get them and as they come online. It makes you very sad because you know what the purpose of them is, and you just hope to God that you never have to use them. Because if you do, the world will never be the same. So we have to be very, very smart. We have to be very sharp. We have to be very special to do a job. And I think we'll get it done. And I think we're going to get a lot of people in the room. We've seen it. We were in France where President Macron did a fantastic job with the cathedral, an absolutely fantastic job, of Notre Dame. And it was beautiful. The opening was the opening, and I just got back, and it was something really beautiful. And a lot of world leaders there. We had about 80 world leaders, different countries, and they were all coming together. They all wanted to meet us and meet me as representative of the U.S., and there was a lot of goodwill. But we're going to get some really tremendous goodwill. I was even thinking about inviting certain people to the inauguration, and some people said, wow, that's a little risky, isn't it? And I said, maybe it is. We'll see. We'll see what happens. but we like to take little chances, but that's not a bad chance. Here's a gentleman that's going to do a great job at HUD. Good luck, my friend, right? He's going to be a star. He's been my friend for a long time. It's nice to see you. I haven't shaken his hand yet. Come on. Congratulations. Thanks. Really, you're going to be great. And Ben Carson is your biggest fan in the world. You know that. Ben has been with us for a long time and has done a fantastic job. Thank you. Good. So, ladies and gentlemen, go on. We're going to put it straight. We're going to give tremendous incentive like no other country has. We're cutting your taxes. We're going to cut them very substantially. We got them down to 21% from probably 42 or 44%, depending on where you are. And we got them down to 21. Everyone said that was a miracle. Now we're getting them down to 15, but only if you make your product here. Otherwise, you pay 21, which is not bad. It's in the middle of the pack. But 15 brings you down to among the lowest. And for those that are running the big companies, those great, big, beautiful companies, nobody's going to be leaving us. You're going to be coming back. You're going to be bringing it back to the United States. We are incentivizing everybody to come back to the United States. We want you back here. Car manufacturers, everybody. And we have one product that nobody has really to the extent that we do. It's called oil and gas. There is no country in the world that has more. We're number one. I brought it to number one during my first term in terms of production. We're going to be number one plus. We'll do numbers that nobody will really see before. And when that happens, prices are going to start coming down because people can't afford their groceries, and they're going to be affording their groceries very soon. I tell the story about a woman who, an old woman, no money, went to a grocery store, had 3 apples. She put them down on the counter, and she looked, and she saw the price, and she said, "Would you excuse me?" And she walked one of the apples back to the refrigerator and came back to pay for the 2 apples. And she left with 2 apples. And the woman at the counter said that was so sad. And when I heard about the story, I said, that should never happen in America. And it's not going to happen in America. We're going to do it right. And we're going to take care of our people. And we're going to do things that nobody ever thought even were possible. But we're going to have an economy the likes of which nobody's ever seen before, and everybody's coming back to America. I saw that the other day at the cathedral. They're all saying, we want to come back, we want to come back. And with a couple of changes done by Howard and Scott and some of the great people up here with me, we're going to bring them all back. They're all coming back. So thank you very much. This is a great honor, and ringing the bell will be fantastic. And go out and get them. We're with you all the way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President-elect Trump at the New York Stock Exchange. You see his portrait there as he was announced as Times Person of the Year in 2024. It is time for us to step away for a break as we take a live look at the White House. 10 minutes past 10 in the nation's capital. 10 minutes past 7 on the West Coast as we take our first break of the hour. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall, a live look at the White House, where we are going to be, of course, focusing so much on D.C. and this building, Capitol building, as we count down the days to Inauguration Day. A couple more live looks to get to as well. This one out of New York City. This is a camera based at Fox News World Headquarters right on 6th Avenue there. Our next story does bring us to New York City. The mayor there, Eric Adams, meeting earlier today with Trump's border czar, Tom Homan. He spoke with reporters, well, I should say he spoke with Tom Homan behind closed doors, and then afterwards the mayor going out and speaking to reporters and taking some questions. Here's Mayor Adams talking about immigration and how they are going to work with the Trump administration come January 20th.
Position, just to wake up the next day and see you write different stories that distort what I've stated. So I'm not wasting my time. I'm being very clear, and I'm not going to spend hours answering your questions over and over again for you already to have your preconceived notions and your distorted views on what I have articulated. We're going to protect the rights of immigrants in the city that are hardworking, giving back to the city in a real way. We're not going to be a safe haven for those who commit repeated violent crimes against innocent migrants, immigrants, and longstanding New Yorkers. That was my conversation today with the border czar to figure out how do we go after those individuals who are repeatedly committing crimes in our city. We're going to tell those who are here, who are law-abiding, to continue to utilize the services that are open to the city, the services that they have a right to utilize, educating their children, healthcare, public protection, and the things that we have long been proudful in doing so. But we will not be a safe haven for those who commit violent acts. We don't do it for those who are citizens, and we're not going to do it for those who are undocumented. We made terrible mistakes in the past by preventing to keep our city safe from those who are committed repeated acts of violence, particularly these dangerous gangs that we have witnessed in our city, and we're not going to continue in that direction. I'm gonna answer a few questions, and then I am leaving, because it's not gonna matter what I respond to anyway. You have your preconceived thoughts already.
Okay, first of all, I do not have a preconceived thought. I want you to know that right from the start.
Thank you.
Number one here, are we talking about people who are just charged, or does that, I mean convicted, or does that include charged? And how exactly, if you could give us some specifics, would this work?
Our legal team is vetting. Do we have the authorization to sit down and speak with ICE legal team to operationalize what both our desires are? And once we get that approval, then we will give you a complete layout of how it's going to work.
Mayor?
Yes.
Right here, sir. When you told Mr. Holman, I'm willing to work with you to make sure we're not a safe haven for people committing crimes, he pushed back and say, I'm looking to deport beyond that. I'm looking to deport undocumented people simply because they are documented dreamers, for instance, asylum seeking migrants who have not committing crimes. And what, if anything, did you say about deporting those people who have not done any crime?
He told you he pushed back on it?
No, I'm asking you, did
all right.
he push back on you saying I want a broader scope?
From what I heard from the incoming head of ICE is that we have the same desire to go after those who are committing violent acts, repeated violent acts among innocent New Yorkers and among migrants and asylum seekers. That's what I heard from him, and I was pleased to hear that because we share the same desire.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good, how are you, Craig?
Good. So, in part of this meeting, you were looking at how to address and kind of meet the new administration a little halfway here, maybe, however you guys are going to meet. Part of that conversation, as you've mentioned, Marsha Kramer's show, is looking at executive orders. So was there any talk about executive orders? And then what would those executive orders entail, and how would they work to kind of address what you had discussed with the orders are today?
I spoke with our my legal team here to look at the powers of my executive orders to accomplish my goals of ridding our streets from those repeated individuals who carry out violent acts of violence towards New Yorkers and towards migrants and asylum seekers. And once we come to a full understanding of that, then we will report on it.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. What did you ask incoming border czar Holman about his plans for his scope for deportation? What questions did you ask him about how far he wants to go with deportations, and what did he tell you?
Well, I think that what has been reported is totally distorted from what our face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball conversation. His goal is the same goal I have. We cannot allow dangerous individuals to commit repeated violent acts of violence in our cities across America. I've said this before, and I'm surprised the way everyone is attempting to state this is a new coming of Eric Adams. I've stated this over and over again, long before this election, that this can't be a safe haven for violent individuals. You have a right, a privilege to live in this country, and those who want to commit acts of violence, they are violating that privilege.
Sir, that if you're a law-abiding that you don't have to fear.
We got to keep it tight. Yolanda, go ahead.
Living in a shelter.
Thank you so much. Señor alcalde, buenas tardes. Did Mr. Holman make any specific request from the city in order to work with you in this crisis?
His desire is clearly, again, what my target area is. And what I've learned also from sitting down with him and a representative from the Biden administration that was there in the meeting as well, we have 500,000 children who had sponsors in this country that we can't find. We can't find them. We don't know if they're doing child labor. We don't know if they're doing sex crimes. We don't know if they're being exploited. 500,000 children. There's a level of hypocrisy that everyone that states they want to protect everyone but innocent individuals who are victims of crimes and children. I want to support and protect children and innocent people that are victims of crime. And those who don't understand that, it's not up to me to try to convince them. I know what my job is, my goal is, and I was clear of that while running and when I became mayor. Safety means everything to me. 500,000 children, we don't know where they are right now in this country.
Will New York remain a sanctuary city, and will you do anything to repeal any of the work that the de Blasio administration did to limit interactions with ICE and other immigration officials?
New York remaining a sanctuary city is determined by the city council. They told you what their positions, what their position is. I'm going to try to attempt to use my executive orders to go after dangerous people who are committing violence acts against migrants and asylum seekers and long-term New Yorkers and undocumented immigrants. No one should be a victim of a crime in the city, and particularly violent crimes. And I said that over and over again. I'm going to continue to stand by that.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if you can detail exactly the kind of cooperation the NYPD will be giving to federal officials in your quest to rid the city of the violent criminals that you talk about.
We need to unravel all of these rules and procedures and laws and all of these rules and procedures. We need to unravel them and get clarity on what we could do and what we can't do. About 170 crimes currently allow us to communicate and collaborate with ICE after a conviction. We need to examine them and see what, again, my authority using executive orders to ensure that I keep New Yorkers safe. That's my only goal. I cannot make it any clearer, you know, and so if pursuing that goal means that my years and years of advocating for immigrants that are here attempting to find the American dream, if that demonizes me, then I'm gonna take it. But I'm gonna save lives in this city.
Mr. Mayor, those were approved actually during the de Blasio administration. Do you feel that since it was approved during the de Blasio administration, that you have the authority to enforce them now, to let NYPD officials enforce them with ICE officials now, so that you can begin doing what you just said you wanted?
Let me tell you one of the challenges that we're having. Currently, you could have one of these dangerous Venezuelan gangs that are here. They can be in real active investigation into some of the criminality that they're doing. There's a lack of clarity that can we assist in preventing the act from taking place. That just makes no sense to me. And I don't know why we want to ignore the fact that there is, from some of these dangerous Ecuadorian gangs we saw on Long Island, the dangerous gangs that we saw coming from other regions, we have an obligation and responsibility to keep people safe in this city. And all law enforcement should play a role in that. All law enforcement. And we should not handcuff law enforcement for carrying out that job. And I think that this entire narrative has been hijacked. There's a great level of distortion. People are trying to push their own agenda. I have one agenda. I've never lied about the agenda. I've never been, slick about my agenda. Keeping New Yorkers safe. And it doesn't matter if they are documented or undocumented, because some of the criminal aspects in this city are preying on migrants, asylum seekers, and undocumented, and so many levels. And this is not about protecting just certain part. The borders are, we share that same belief, and we're going to pursue that same belief. And I'm looking forward to that pursuit. Thank you.
Eric Adams speaking earlier today after he met with Trump's border czar in New York City. Time for us to step away for a break. We'll be right back.